Welcome to Imam Ali's legacy for exploring the timeless wisdom of Imam Ali through the profound teachings of Najul Balagha. Our channel aims to shed light on the invaluable lessons and guidance imparted by Imam Ali, covering a wide range of topics including spirituality, leadership, justice, morality, and philosophy. Through detailed explanations, reflections, and insightful interpretations, we bring Imam Ali's words to life, helping you connect with his divine wisdom in today's world. Whether you're seeking spiritual growth, intellectual enlightenment, or simply a deeper understanding of the teachings of one of history's most influential leaders, this channel is for you. Join us as we embark on a journey of knowledge and inspiration straight from the sacred texts of Najul Balagha. Subscribe to stay updated with weekly content, including sermons, letters, and sayings of Imam Ali, along with their meanings and practical applications in our lives. Let us see what the history says about his behavior with his friends and relatives. 1. Abdullah, a son of his brother Ja'far, was his favorite nephew whom he had raised since the death of Ja'far, and to whom he had given his most favorite daughter Zainab to marry. This Abdullah came to him requesting an advance installment of his share from Battle Mal. Ali refused, and when the young man persisted, he said, "No, my son, not a day before all the others, nor one piece more." 2. Aqil, his elder brother, was financially in a very unhappy condition. He asked for something more than his share, and before the time was due, the Imam refused, saying that he could not resort to dishonesty. Aqil must wait till the time of distribution and must bear that sufferings patiently. He had cited this incident in one of his sermons. 3. Ibn Hanif was his trusted disciple and a faithful follower. He was governor of a province and was once invited to a function which was followed by sumptuous dinner. When Hazrat heard of this, he wrote him a severe letter, criticizing his action, and said, "You went to a dinner where only rich people were invited and the poor were scornfully excluded." This letter can be seen in Najul Balagha. 3. Among his servants and slaves, he had 2 slaves, Khaybar and Said. After Ali's martyrdom, Khaybar used to relate, saying that he very seldom had the occasion to serve his master. The Imam used to do his work for himself, washing his own clothes and even patching them when patching was needed. He also drew water from the well for his own daily use. He would give them good food and decent dresses, and would himself eat and dress like a very poor man. Let alone whipping or beating, he never even got angry with us. He never used a cane even on his horse, camel or mule. These animals apparently understood his mood and desire and would trot and walk as he wished them to do. His often used phrase with them was, "Ah, go easy, child," continuing. Khaybar said, "Once and only once he got annoyed with me. It was the occasion when I showed him the money that I had hoarded. It was from my share of income given to me, like others from the Muslim treasury and the gifts I had received from the members of his family. I had no immediate use of it and had collected the amount. It was not much, being barely 100 dirhams. When I showed him the amount, he looked annoyed. And what caused me greater pain was that he looked very sad. I asked him why he was so sad. He said, "Khaybar, if you had no use for this money, were there not people around you who were in need of it? Some of them might have been starving and some ill and infirm. Could you not have helped them? I never thought that you could be so heartless and cruel and loved wealth for the sake of wealth. Khaybar, I am afraid you are not trying to acquire much from Islam. Try more seriously and sincerely. Take these coins out of my house." I took them out and distributed them among the beggars at the Kufa mosque. Said says, if it was a very hot day, the Imam was some letters. He wanted to send me to call some of his officers. He called me once, twice, and the third time. Each time I purposely remained silent and did not reply. He got up to go himself and saw me sitting not very far from him. He asked me why I did not respond to his call. I replied, "Sir, I want to find out when and how you get angry." A smile painted itself on his lips, and he replied, "You cannot rouse my anger with such childish tricks." Then he set me free and kept on supporting me till his death. IV. Among his subjects, once Ubaidullah ibn Abbas, when he was governor, ill-treated Banu Tamim's clan. They complained to the Imam. He wrote to Ibn Abbas, "You should not behave like a beast with your subjects. They are respectable people and should be treated respectfully. You are representing me and your treatment is considered as that of mine. Your first consideration should be the welfare of those over whom you rule, then to treat them with due respect and consideration." Once a group of non-Muslim subjects met the Imam and complained about Abdullah ibn Abbas treating them with contempt and scorn. They were farm tillers and agricultural laborers. It had then become a practice that non-Muslims were usually treated scornfully. The Imam wrote to Abdullah, "The agricultural population of your province complains about your harsh, contemptuous and cruel treatment. Their complaints require careful considerations. I feel they deserve a better treatment than what was meted out to them. Give them a chance to approach you and meet them kindly and politely. They may be heathens and polytheists, but being your subjects and human beings, they do not deserve to be driven from us and to be treated harshly and with contempt." Hazrat Ali was passing through Awazin present day Iran with his army. The rich men of the province, as was the custom of those times, came out to greet him. They offered him their best Persian horses as presents, requesting his permission to host his army. He met them very courteously, but he very politely refused to accept the gifts and the invitation, saying, "You have paid your taxes. To receive anything more from you, even when you offer it voluntarily and willingly, is a crime against the state." But when they persisted and pressed their request, he ordered that the horses could be accepted against their taxes. So far as the feast was concerned, it must be paid out of the war budget. There appeared an article saying that the Russians in 1905 found an order of Hazrat Ali in his own handwriting, which was in Kufic script. This was found in a monastery in Ardabil, chief town, provincial capital of Azerbaijan. This letter was an amnesty deed to the monastery and the Christians of Ardabil. A translation of this deed appeared in the Russian newspapers. Then it was translated and published in the Turkish papers as well as in the Arabic magazines of Cairo and Beirut. Many commenting articles on the spirit of toleration and the treatment of conquered by Islam were written by the Russians and by Arab Christians. Apparently, according to the magazine Al-Habl al-Metin, it was translated by Al-Hukam, and this says that as the caliph and ruler, he promises safety and security of life, property, honor, social status, and religious freedom of Armenian Christians. This order should be obeyed by his officers and his successors. The Christians should not be mistreated or looked down upon because they are non-Muslims, so long as they do not try to betray or harm the cause or the state of Islam. They should not be maltreated and should be allowed to practice their religion and trade freely and openly. Islam teaches us to carry a message of peace with us and improve the status of society wherever we go. And the best way to achieve this is to create amity, friendliness, and concord among human beings. Therefore, Muslims should try to develop friendship of these people and should never resort to the wrong use of power, force, and arrogance. They should not be overtaxed, humiliated, and forced out of their homes, lands, and trades. Their priests should be treated with due respect. Their monasteries should be protected. They should be allowed to carry on their lectures, teachings, and preaching as usual, and their religious ceremonies should not be prohibited. If they want to build their places of worship, then fallow and ownerless lands should be allotted to them. One who disobeys this order is going against the orders of Allah and the Holy Prophet and will deserve his wrath. Of Harith ibn Shuhair, one of the governors of the provinces, was in Kufa, and while riding through the city he saw Imam Ali also riding. He got down from his horse to accompany the Imam on foot. He stopped his horse and said, "It ill becomes a man to lower himself before anybody but his Allah. Please get back upon your horse. Even had you not been an officer of the state, still I would not allow you to lower yourself like this. The sight of such humiliation of man before another man never pleases me. It is the worst form of tyranny which can be practiced. There is a letter of the Imam, which is actually a system of rules and regulations for the administration of benign government and a code for higher values of morality. It is included in Najal Balagha, and it is referred to so very often and philosophers of Arabia. Even Justice Kahani refers to it in his presidential address in Karachi on April 16, 1960, that it now needs no further introduction. In it, there are orders which show that he wanted his officers to remember that the people over whom they ruled are exclusively entrusted to them by Allah and should be treated as such. Among the poor, he had a very soft corner in his heart for old, weak, infirm, disabled, and poor, and children were always his favorites. Kai was the hottest day of the season. He had finished his noon prayers in the mosque and was passing through the bazaar when he saw a young slave girl piteously weeping on the road. He asked her the reason. She said that her master had given her some money to get dates from the bazaar. The dates which she brought were not liked by her master, and he wanted them to be returned and his money refunded. The fruit seller refused to take them back. Her master was beating her for the money, and seller had also caned her for going to him over and over again. She did not know what to do and whom to approach for help. The Imam accompanied her to the seller and advised him to take back the dates. He was a newcomer to Kufa and did not recognize the Imam and was rude to him. A Pazabi intervened and told him who the Imam was. He jumped from his shop and begged of the Imam to excuse him and said that he would give back the money immediately to her. The Imam replied that it was really mean of him to treat an honest question disdainfully and haughtily, and to cower before power and might so abjectly and humiliatingly. The owner of the slave girl had also heard the news of this incident and ran to meet the Imam, trouble caused by the slave girl. The Imam, to apologize for the told him, "You have no mercy for a person who is under your power and cannot forgive her mistake. Have you then a right to expect mercy and forgiveness from our master? You people have acquired nothing from Islam except its name." One day he saw an old woman carrying a heavy load of firewood which she could ill afford to lift. She was tottering under the weight. The Imam relieved her of her weight and carried it to her hamlet, and on her request lit her oven for her and gave her some money. She did not know who the Imam was and was thanking him for his kindness. When a neighbor entered the hamlet, he recognized the Imam and told her who he was. Only then did she realize who had served her like an obedient servant. It was the Caliph, the king. Only after his death did the world come to know that he had provided a shelter outside of the town for a leper in an advanced stage of the disease. He used to go there daily, dress his wounds, feed him with his own hands because the leper had lost his hands, wash him, put his bed in order and carry him out of the shelter for a little time so that he could get some fresh air. Accidentally, relatives and friends of the Imam came across this shelter, found the leper in it, learned his story and told him the Imam was murdered and that they had just buried him. The news affected the poor cripple so much that he died on the spot. Ali's diet, Imam Ali always ate the kind of food and dressed in such a way that even the poorest could afford better. It was not because he was poor, but because he wanted to lead the life of the poorest person and spend all that could be spared on the poor. I have noted below certain cases quoted by the historians. These incidents are of the time when he was the ruler and king of the entire Muslim empire except Syria. 5. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal in his Musnad cited Suwaida ibn Ghafla saying, "One day I went to see Ali at the government house, the Dar al-Imara. It was the time of breakfast, and before him there was a cup of milk and some barley bread. The bread was dry, stale, hard, and did not contain any butter or oil. It could not be easily broken into pieces. The Imam was exerting himself to break and soften it. I turned towards his slave said, 'Fidza, have you no pity on your old master? Why cannot you give him softer bread and add some butter or oil to it?' She replied, 'Why should I pity him when he never pities himself? He has given strict orders that nothing is to be added to his bread, and even chaff and husk are not to be separated from the flour. We ourselves eat much better food than this, though we are his slaves.' Hearing this, I said to him, 'O master, have pity on yourself. Look at your age, your responsibilities, your hard work, and your feud.' He replied, 'O Suwaida, you have no idea what the Holy Prophet, to satiety for 3 consecutive days, used to eat. He never ate Alama Kamalud, Din Muhammad ibn Talha al-Shafi'i, in his book titled Matalib al-Sul, quotes Abdullah ibn Zura saying, 'I went to see Imam Ali on an Eid day. He asked me to join in his breakfast. I agreed. A very poor kind of food was served before us. I told him, "O master, you are such a rich man, a caliph and a king. I was expecting that game would be served before us, but what do I see?" The Imam replied, "O Ibn Zurara, you have heard of mighty kings who have led life of luxury. Let me be a ruler leading the life of a poor and humble person, a humble laborer." Al-Milani, in his book titled Sirah, and Imam Ahmed in his Musnad, quote the famous Tabi'i Ibn Abu Rafi saying that he went to the Imam on an Eid day, and while he was sitting there, a bag was brought before the Imam, which he thought might contain jewels. The Imam opened the bag, but it only contained dried pieces of bread, which he softened with water. Ibn Abu Rafi asked him as to the reason of stealing such a kind of food which even a beggar would not care to steal. The Imam smiled and said, I keep it sealed because my children try to substitute softer bread containing oil or butter in it. Ibn Abu Rafi said, "Has Allah prohibited you to eat better kind of food?" He replied, "No, but I want to eat the kind of food which the poorest of his realm can afford at least once a day. I shall improve it after I have improved their standards of life. I want to live, feel and suffer like them." His clothing, Imam Ahmed in his book Al-Manaqib and Ibn Athar in his history book, quote Harun ibn Anza saying that he accompanied his father Anza to the Khandaq castle to meet Imam Ali. Those were the winter days and the winter was very severe. He found the Imam in a very thin cotton garment and the cold wind was making him shiver. Anza asked him, "O Commander of the Faithful, Allah has reserved a share for you and your family from Baitul Mal Muslim state treasury. Why do you not make use of it?" He replied, "Go Anza, I do not want anything from your treasury. This is the same outfit which I have brought with me from Medina." Imam Ahmad quotes Zayd ibn Wahab saying that once there came out of his house and there were patches sewn to his dress. Ibn Najah, a Kharajite and an enemy, was allowed by the Imam to lead a peaceful and comfortable life at Kufa, taunted the Imam on the very poor and coarse kind of outfit put on by him. He replied, "Let go. What have you to find objection in my outfit? It is the kind which our masses can afford. Why can you not think of their lives and outfits? I shall improve my standard after I have succeeded in improving theirs. Meanwhile, I shall continue to live like them." Such kind of outfit makes one feel humble and meek. It is helpful as a reminder and an encouragement to give up vanity, haughtiness and arrogance. Al-Matakiyal, Hindi, in his books titled Kanzul Amal al-Tabari in al-Riyal Nadira, quote Umar ibn Qais saying that once he asked the Imam as to the reason of his having patches in his outfit. He replied, "O Umar, such type of outfit makes you soft-hearted, it vanishes vanity from your mind, and it is the kind which poor Muslims can conveniently afford." Shaykh al-Islam Imam Abu Ma Yusuf ibn Abdul Bir in his book Al-Istib quotes Husayn ibn Jarmuz saying that his father once saw the Imam coming out of the Kufa mosque in a shirt made of jute cloth. Around him were people so well dressed that compared to him they looked like princes. He was instructing them as to how they might better understand their own submission to the will of Allah, Islam. Imam Ahmed quotes Abu Nozaya, the ready-made cloth merchant of Kufa, saying that the Imam purchased 2 shirts from his shop. One was of superior quality, which he handed over to his slave Khaybar to put on. The other was of a rough cloth, very coarse and cheap, which he reserved for himself. Ordered him to leave Mecca the very same night. It was a serious and dangerous occasion. He was ordered by Allah to go in such a way that none of his enemies might suspect his departure, and, if possible, none of his friends might know of it. The walls of his house were barely 7 feet high, and anyone placing a stone and standing upon it could easily peep into the house. He knew the house was surrounded. Anyone whom he asked to sleep in his bed covering himself with the Prophet as coverlet. Such a person was expected not to expose his identity till dawn, by which time the Prophet would be safe and out of danger. This person was also to be unarmed, so that he might not rouse the suspicion of the peeping enemies. He should thus be willing to bear the brunt of the enemy's anger in the morning, and be ready to be killed. To whom but Allah could be Holy Prophet detail, he informed Ali, turn at this most dangerous moment. In novels of the whole plan and of the positive danger of taking his place in detail, saying that the least that could be expected of those enemies would be death and torture. Ali Khatz asked, "I take your place and leave you alone to go through the gathered enemies. Will your life be safe?" "Yes," replied the Holy Prophet, "Allah has promised me a safe passage through them." Ali bowed his head before Allah as a sign of thanksgiving. He lied down on the bed of the Holy Prophet and covered himself with the Prophet's coverlet. During the night, many stones and arrows were aimed at him. Stones hit him in the back and on the head and arrows embedded in his legs, but he did not even turn in his bed. In the morning he was found out by the enemies only when one of them pulled back the coverlet, when they wanted to attack him, knowing that he was Ali not Muhammad's sword. In Medina, the Holy Prophet, only then did he unsheath his, was forced to defend himself and his followers, and was thus forced to fight many battles. At each and every battle, Ali was the hero, and it was he who fought single-handedly with the famous warriors of Arabia, defeated the enemies and brought a victory to Islam. Records of these battles carry with them chronicles of his bravery, courage and chivalry. Even the enemies sang songs of his valor and gallantry. Every one of these battles was an outcome of very grave circumstances and conditions and a complex combination of intricately serious events initiated by quite real and extremely harmful forces launched against the peace and well-being of Muslims and Islam. There were many such encounters, but I have briefly mentioned only 5 of those instances where the events had far-reaching effects. In each of them, alone broke through evil combinations and carried the Muslims and Islam to a status of safety, eminence and power. The first of these battles was Badr. It took place in the month of Ramadan of the 2nd year of Hijrah. Muslims were not prepared for a battle and could ill afford to fight against superior forces. But Medina was being invaded and the Holy Prophet was necessarily forced to defend himself and his followers. He decided to leave Medina and fight out the battle in an open field. He had only 313 Muslims who were not adequately armed for a battle. Many of them were nervous of an encounter and were suffering from inferiority complex. The tribesmen of Quraysh had come with an army of about 1,000 warriors which had frightened the Muslims even more. The battle took place and about 36 Quraysh were killed by Ali. Some of them were very important persons and famous warriors of the tribesmen of Quraysh. Ali killed every one of those 36 antagonists in hand-to-hand combat, and most of them were the persons who had surrounded the house of Holy Prophet Dhaka on the night of the Hijrah. During this encounter he was wounded, but by his bravery and courage he brought home to Muslims that he would act as the first line of defense for Islam, that they had no cause to suffer from inferiority complexes and that Allah would defend them against heavy odds. Among the tribesmen of Quraysh were 2 of the worst enemies of Islam, Abu Jahl and Abu Sufyan, and in this battle Abu Jahl was killed. Allah was the hero of this battle and brought the first victory in Islam in armed encounters with its enemies. The second most important battle was that of Uhud. The tribesmen of Quraysh and their leader Abu Sufyan were smarting under the defeat of Badr and had sworn to retaliate. The idolaters were burning for revenge. They made formidable preparations for another encounter and succeeded in obtaining the assistance of Tihama and Kinana tribes. Abu Sufyan's wife, Hind mother of Muawiyah, took a keen interest in all arrangements and preparations. She had written poems to entice Quraysh against Islam and had organized a band of women minstrels who accompanied the army of Quraysh to the battlefield. Thus they had mobilized an army of 3,000 infantry and 2,000 cavalry. Holy Prophet could muster only 700 Muslims to face this horde. They faced each other in the battlefield of Uhud. The battle took place on the 11th of 3 a year after the Battle of Badr. The command of the Muslim army was divided between Allah and Hamza, and Abu Sufyan had appointed Khalid ibn al-Walid, Akram ibn Abu Jahl and Umar ibn al-As as the 3 commanders to command the right wing, left wing and the center respectively. The first encounter took place between Ali and Talha ibn Talha. This encounter carries with an incident of marvelous chivalry by Ali which I have narrated elsewhere. Talha suffered defeat at the hands of Ali and died. He was the flag bearer of Quraysh's army. His death brought his 4 sons and 1 grandson to face Ali, and each one of them was killed by him. As other flag bearers followed them, they were in turn killed by Ali. Then a general encounter took place in which Ali and Hamza carried the day and the Muslims were victorious. But eagerness of spoils threw the ranks of the Muslim army into disorder. Ali, however, tried to keep them in order, but it was not to be. Khalid ibn al-Walid immediately attacked them from the rear and the flank. He wounded the Holy Prophet with a javelin and had also stoned him. The face of the Prophet was also wounded and he had fallen down from the horse. Khalid ibn al-Walid started shouting with a loud voice, "The lying Prophet is slain." Without stopping to verify this acclaim, the followers of Islam fled, panic-stricken Davenport. The wounded Prophet was left in the battlefield with only Ali, Hamza, Abu Dujana and Thaqwan to defend him. These brave warriors fought fiercely, and during this encounter, Hamza was killed. Thaqwan and Abu Dujana lay seriously wounded and Ali was left alone in the battlefield. He had received 16 wounds, but he searched and found the Holy Prophet lying wounded and surrounded by enemies under command of Khalid who were trying to kill him. He fought against these 6 men, killed 2 of them and scattered the rest. He bodily lifted the Holy Prophet and carried him to a mount while he kept on attacking the rallying armies of the enemy and shouted that Holy Prophet is alive and calling Muslims to come back. Those Muslims who had not fled very far came back and saw the wounded Prophet with his daughter, Fatima Patuha, who had come out of Medina upon hearing the rumor of her father's death to look after him. They took heart and gathered again under the command of Ali. And starting to fight again, victory was gained. The most peculiar aspect of this battle was that the greed of the Muslim warriors had converted a hard-earned victory into an ignominious defeat, and Ali had reconverted this defeat into a glorious victory. He thus once again saved the day by saving the face of the fleeing Muslims. Most important of all, he saved was the life of the Holy Prophet, for without Ali, the Holy Prophet would have been killed. 28 famous warriors of Arabia were killed by Ali in this battle, of whom 17 were flag bearers of the tribesmen of Quraysh. The Holy Prophet declared that the angel Gabriel in the praise of Ali Laliuda and had said, "Here is no braver youth than Ali Dak and no better sword than his Dul Fika." A detailed account of this battle is available in 1. Al-Waqidi's History of Prophets, 2. Shah Ismail al-Hamawini's History, 3. Tabaris Tariq Avi. The third momentous armed encounter of the Muslims with the tribesmen of Quraysh is called the Battle of the Clans Azab, or Battle of Thimot, or Ditch Khandaq. It is so called because many clans of Arabs were persuaded by Abu Sufyan to help him to annihilate Islam and the Muslims. Because these forces invaded Medina, the Holy Prophet was obliged to dig a moat or ditch around his army. This battle also proves that the Holy Prophet was forced to take up arms in defense of his followers and his mission. It took place on the 23rd of Dhul Hijjah in the year 5H. The defeat at Uhud was a crushing blow to the tribesmen of Quraysh and to their leader Abu Sufyan. While retreating from Uhud, he promised that he would come back again to avenge the defeat. He instigated the clans of Banu al-Natfan, Banu Slim and Banu Kinana, and also succeeded in persuading Banu Qurayza, who till then had not sided with any party, to join their forces against Islam. Abu Sufyan was very sure of his success. He especially relied upon the fame of Umar ibn Abwad, who was as famous in Arabia as Rustam was in Iran. He had gathered an army of about 9,000 to 10,000 soldiers under command of this famous warrior.